Jennifer's Body is a feminist film that subverts gender stereotypes and tropes historically found in horror movies. How? This is how.
All alone in an empty room, nothing left but the memories of...
Jennifer's Body, released in 2009, was directed by Karen Kusama and written by Diablo Cody. It flopped financially at the box office, generally due to awful misguided marketing to teenage boys, the completely wrong demographic that this film was written for. As a marketing executive said, because Megan Fox hot. However, this is not what this movie was meant to be. Kusama and Cody's original intention with this movie was for it to be a campy, vintage horror movie that played with the tropes and stereotypes, historically found in the horror genre as well as just film in general. Whether it be different gender stereotypes and roles, portrayal of queer characters, toxic male boy bands, rape and sexual assault in a pre-Me Too era, etc. There's so much in this movie to digest that the other 49 people in my year level also, you can see that. Film academic Carol Clover discussed the traditional gender roles in 80s slasher films in her book Men, Women and Chainsaws, in which she discussed how women are chosen more often as the victims because they permitted a greater range of emotion. Angry displays of force may belong to the male, but crying, cowering, screaming, fainting, trembling, begging for mercy belong to the female. Abject terror, in short, is gendered feminine. As I mentioned earlier, Jennifer's Body, it was made to play with this concept, but this led to a divisive and confused reaction from many audience members and critics, one being of a Twilight for boys. Thank you, Roger Ebert, for that quote. There's your website. Doing great stuff. And the other being a campy horror that was made to parody everything wrong with horror at the time.
And I see the broken glass in front of me.
The final girl trope was first coined by Carol Clover in her book Men, Women and Chainsaws. Men, Women and Chainsaws. This trope features a main female protagonist who outlives all her friends who get hunted down and murdered by a main male antagonist. And then she also gets saved by a random male character sometimes, but sometimes not. Depends on the movie. The final girl trope goes hand in hand with another trope called the death by sex trope, first coined by Carol Clover in her novel Men, Women and Chainsaws. Men, Women and Chainsaws. Men, Women and Chainsaws. Men, Women and Chainsaws. The death by sex trope, to put it simple, is people dying because of their moral inferiority. To put it with the final girl trope, the friends, they have sex. They die. The final girl, she does not have sex. The friends, they drink alcohol. The final girl, she does not drink alcohol. Some movies which use these tropes by the book are movies like Halloween, with Michael Myers, who kills his sister after or before it'll be up here having sex with her boyfriend. Annie, who gets her throat slit while waiting for her boyfriend. Bob and Linda, who both get murdered after they've just had sex. And then Laurie, who's the little angel and she's babysitting and she lives. And then to put salt in the wound, in the original version, or most versions, she doesn't even save herself. She gets saved by Dr. Loomis, some guy who's just followed them around the whole time. Then there are films like Scream, with Sydney as the final girl and Stu and Bill as the male murderer weird guys. And this film knowingly plays off of these tropes with lines like,
there are certain rules
that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number one, you can never have sex.
You can never.
Jennifer's Body does use this trope in a somewhat stereotypical manner, with Needy being the final girl. But they have gender swapped all of the victims, that you can see up here. They're all guys. Cody and Kusama outwardly shared their desire to flip these tropes, with Cody saying in a quote in an interview, "We want to subvert the classic horror model of women being terrorized. I want to write roles that service women. I want to tell stories from a female perspective. I want to create parts for actresses when they're not just accessories to men."
Through the trees, I will find you.
In Jennifer's Body, Cody chose to write the male characters to be sensitive, emotional victims. And this is in direct contrast to Carol Clover's quote from earlier. I'm up there. The first of Jennifer's victims we see is Jonas. Jonas is supposed to be your typical meathead jock who he walks around and he gets all the women and he's loud and he plays football and he plays football and he plays football. But when his best friend Craig dies, we see him standing alone, crying in the corner of the football field. And when Jennifer approaches him and starts talking to him, he isn't loud and, obnoxious. He's quiet and he only talks in short sentences.
He wasn't my best friend. Wow. He said banging?
This isn't very jock-like, is it? As we can see, this is a very classic subversion of movie stereotypes. This is very early in the movie and it should set the tone for what the movie is, This is a jock, he's supposed to be loud, and he's not loud. Then get this, Jennifer lures Jonas into the forest with the very literal offer of sex.
You come with me, just for a little while. It's what Craig would have wanted.
This very literal play on the death by sex trope is used for all of Jennifer's victims. Back to the scene now. As this is the first of Jennifer's kills that we see, we, the audience, are unaware of the power that Jennifer possesses. So the camera shot is positioned at a high shot for Jennifer and a low shot for Jonas, showing the traditional power dynamic between the two characters. When the shots suddenly even out when Jennifer shoves Jonas into a tree before killing him. Jennifer's next victim, Colin, is a socially awkward punk goth guy. He fidgets with his collar, he fidgets with his bracelet, he fidgets with his hands. He sings to himself in the car on the way to meet Jennifer for, just like Jonas, sex. To male viewers at the time, it seems like he's a wuss, or an
eyeliner. They look like a bunch of fagos.
As Chris Pratt coined, as this is the traditional film stereotype of this kind of character in horror movies and other films at the time. To modern viewers though, Colin is the heartthrob of the story. And this is what Cody and Kusama intended with Colin, as teen boys were not the target audience. Alt-teen girls were. In the scene where he goes to meet Jennifer, as he enters the house, he says, "Hello? Jennifer?" in a fearful tone.
Hello? Jennifer?
This is met with a handheld POV shot of something following him through the house. Almost like Jennifer's stalking him. As he walks into the candle room, we see he's hunched over, fidgeting with his bracelet. After he looks around the room, it cuts to an over-the-shoulder close shot, showing Jennifer entering the room out of focus before scaring him. Colin then gives his awkward small talk a go, while still fidgeting with his bracelet, little to no response from Jennifer.
This isn't really your house, is it?
No, baby. This is our house.
Jennifer then tries instigating with Colin by unzipping and taking her jacket off.
Mommy and Daddy.
And the line, "We can play Mummy and Daddy," to which he responds, Do you even know my last name? While still fidgeting with his bracelet.
Do you even know my last name?
Jennifer responds to this
Silly.
with,
I've been sending you signals all year. Couldn't you tell? You give me such a wetty.
a line which made many of the dudes in the audience, they thought this was gross and icky instead of hot and sexy, which is what they came to see this movie for. Then she really goes on to Colin, which he shows much hesitation to. As he starts to lower his guard though, he's suddenly startled by a group of mice running through the room. His guard now raised again, standing there frightened and confused of where Jennifer has brought him and what she's about to do next.
Go.
Then once he starts to lower his guard further after she further instigates, she's got him now. He's died. There's no hope for him now.
No way.
And then Colin, jumping back, accidentally stabs himself.
Puncture wound. God, that's.
The shot on Colin changes to a high shot, with the shot on Jennifer lowering to a low shot, visually telling us that the power dynamic has shifted to Jennifer.
I need you hopeless.
Rest in our cutie patootie, Colin. Forever in our hearts. Then there's Needy's boyfriend, Chip. He rides a unicycle. He's in the school band. These are not stereotypical manly activities. In the scene where he's getting ready for the school dance, we see him standing in front of the mirror, flexing his biceps. Oof. Oof. It's almost like we can visually see his own self-anxiety easing into him after his breakup with Needy. Am I not strong enough? Am I not pretty enough? Is there something wrong with me? Do I need to be more of a man? Again, this is another tiny thing that the creators added to this film to make our male characters look more sensitive and emotional on a more deep basis. His vigorous flexing is then interrupted when his mum walks in to gift him a can of pink panic pepper spray to use to protect himself from this sicko who likes boys. At first, Chip rejects his mum's offer, claiming he'll be fine because I've been using the Bowflex.
I can take care of myself. I've been using the Bowflex.
Only to accept his mum's offer after she talks some sense into him.
Did you hear what Colin Gray looked like when they found him?
Lasagna with teeth?
You heard.
Later, as Chip is walking to the dance, he gets scared by Jennifer, as she wanted to talk to him about Needy.
I need to talk to you about you-know-who. Our little Needy.
Only for her to try hook up with him. And while he did hesitate a couple times, obviously due to his recent breakup,
Needy.
What? Why?
Jennifer did successfully lure him into an abandoned pool, where Chip then received fatal injuries to the foot. Diablo Cody has been able to write such unique characters during this era in film, thanks to her lived experience with her own brother and dad. Honestly, I don't know how to write impressive men, because my dad and my brother are both these two sensitive guys who get in fights and cry all the time. That's the model for me. That's all I know. But how do the audience react to these characters?
You're not coming back! And you're not coming back! No!
The reaction to these characters from the initial audience of teen boys was that of confusion and hate. The type of guy that would have gone to see this movie, the horror fan who loves gore and death metal and porn and licks knives erotically for fun. These horror dudes, they did not want to see these guys Caraway and hide. They didn't want to see them being cute little goofballs and cutie patooties. They didn't want them to show normal human emotion and empathy. And they definitely didn't want to see them get absolutely shredded by a they're men. They should dominate all social settings and be big and strong and loud and boisterous. Because that's how it's always been. On a test screening of the movie, organised by the marketing team, of course, meaning that it mostly consisted of dudes, when one audience member was questioned on what he thought of the movie, he simply replied,
"Needs more boobs," and spelled boobs B-E-W-B-S.
Cody even said herself in an interview, "I kept sort of reminding everyone, guys, we can't market this movie to boys." And then have them go into the theatre expecting one thing, and then seeing Megan Fox not really taking her clothes off, but rip her garbs and intestines out and eat them. These boys, they also just completely missed the whole subversion of the death by sex trope, instead thinking that they were being, for some reason, sex teased the whole time, which they were in a way. An example of this complete misinterpretation being Jonas's death, where Jennifer started to unzip, lowering Jonas's guard only to kill him. But these guys, dudes, and boys in the audience, they only acted to replace Jonas in this situation. When Jennifer unzipped her jacket, these guys and dudes, they dropped their guard. When Jennifer jumped Jonas, these guys, their sexual fantasies, they were thrashed. All in the bin, you know? No more Megan Fox boobs. What so many critics and viewers missed upon release has now finally been appreciated. The strong woman leading the story and the true villains of being low shoulder. To conclude this video, Jennifer's Body has successfully subverted the tropes, conventions, and stereotypes historically found in horror movies and other films at the time to commentate on toxic men and masculinity, as well as the other toxic ideas that horror movies have historically promoted.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.